now, 88.3 The Dog presents The Hot Seat.
This is The Hot Seat. It's Friday once again. We got a lot to talk about. We got NBA, we got Western sports, we got the trade deadline that just happened. And first, we're going to talk about the men's basketball team. They had a rough week last week, even though their offense is starting to pick it up a little bit. Connor, do you want to talk about it a little bit more?
Yeah, so they started off the week playing North Dakota, and they lost to North Dakota 100-91. And this is a potential Summit League tournament matchup, as Western's going near the bottom and North Dakota's near the top. Garrett Covington, who was in a slump, actually seems to have come out of his slump, scoring 32 points, and Dalen Ankrum had 19. North Dakota State had 3 players score over 20, which, when you have a 3-player scoring over 20, usually ends up pretty good for you. Game actually went to double overtime, so this shows that Western can hang with some of the top teams. But in double overtime, Western did not prevail, and they only scored 4 points while squandering 13. Later in the week, they played South Dakota. They lost to South Dakota 92-81. Covington scored 21 while Mike McClusack scored 24. Western only trailed by 3 at the half. We have seen Western finally have some good offensive games, but it has not ended up well for them at all. It's their defense that needs to step up now. Their offense is finally starting to step up, and now their defense needs to do it.
Yeah, I feel like defense is a better thing to fix than offense. In my opinion, my personal opinion, it's just an easier thing to fix instead of offense. Offense is a little more difficult than defense. You could easily guard someone and not give up any points, but on offense, it's kind of hard, or it's kind of harder. And these last couple games shows that they can score and they can put up some serious points.
And with defense, all defense is really is effort and being in the right spot. So Western has been playing better on the offensive end, but they need to put a full game together and play better defense.
Well, their overall record right now is 8-18, and their conference record is 5-10. They've clinched the Summit League tournament spot, which shows that the Summit League is a very weak conference, having a 8-18 or 5-10 team in the conference make the tournament. And Kyle, who are they going to be playing?
If the Summit League tournament started now, they would be playing North Dakota State, the team they lost in double overtime, 91-100.
And I believe, were they playing in North Dakota State?
They were playing at Fargo, yes.
At Fargo? That's impressive, and that just shows that anything can happen. They went toe-to-toe with the best team in the Summit League and almost beat them. It took 2 overtimes for North Dakota State to prevail.
And if you look at this right now, it looks like Western Illinois would stay at the bottom spot, or not the bottom spot, the near bottom spot in the Summit League, as IUPUI is ahead of them, and they have a 7-8 conference record. Meanwhile, Western Illinois only has a 5-10 conference record. So they're for sure in the Summit League tournament, but it's a matter of who they play, or it does look like it's between South Dakota and North Dakota State as of right now. Those are the only top 2 teams in the Summit League.
So they've clinched the very last spot in the Summit League tournament.
Yes,
then.
They're in the very bottom.
Only team below them is Oral Roberts, who stands at
4-12, and they're out of the Summit League tournament. So right now, you're possibly looking at either Western Illinois versus North Dakota State or South Dakota in the Summit League tournament, and it's going to be a very difficult task for the Leathernecks, but who knows what they could do, because like I said last week, anything can happen. It's March.
And it's very important to point out that Western just played both of those teams back-to-back here this previous week, and they didn't get blown out by either team, so that shows that it's probably going to be a very competitive game. I'm going to make a prediction here. Whoever they play, Western's going to lose to. It's just the way that the season has gone. It's really hard to have faith in them. But I do believe it's going to be a good game, whoever they play.
Yeah, I have to agree, but I also agree that it will be a very competitive game because they've shown the past week that they can play the top 2 teams and play them pretty well.
They've been playing very, very well these last couple of games. Their offense is playing phenomenally. If they could keep that up in the Summit League tournament, then who knows what they could do.
Well, their defense needs to step up.
Their defense needs to step up big time, but like I said earlier, it's something they could easily fix. Defense is very, very easily fixable, but offense is a little harder. Now we're going to throw it to the women's team, and they have a huge game this Saturday, which we'll talk about at the very end of the segment. But meanwhile, they did play 1 game against Fort Wayne. Do you want to talk about that, Max?
Yeah, they defeated the Fort Wayne Mastodons 77-51, clinching a share of the Summit League title, which is big going into the tournament because now you know that they're either going to be a 1 or a 2 seed. And it was a very close game at the end of the first half, and Fort Wayne only managed to score 6 points in the fourth, which is a credit to Western's defense. They played very well. And Emily Clemens dropped 25 points with 12 assists, while Morgan Bloomer had 18 points. And overall in that game, sounds like they played very well defense and offense. They put a complete game together.
They played a phenomenal game against Fort Wayne. Even though Fort Wayne did hang with them these first 3 quarters, the fourth quarter is where they just essentially stopped breathing. They only scored 6 points. Meanwhile, Western dropped, I think it was 13, something like that, in the fourth quarter. Just not usually what we see in the fourth quarter from the Leathernecks, but is something that they could be proud of, that they could close out games.
Yeah, if it's close throughout, it's really not how you start, it's how it's finished, and they finished the game very well, winning by 26.
And they're going to be facing South Dakota this Saturday. And that game is going to be, well, here's how it's going to work. So Western's already clinched a share of the Summit League title, meaning that the worst that can happen is they tie. But if they beat South Dakota tomorrow mid-afternoon, early evening, they will take the Summit League by themselves, and they will be hoisting the Summit League trophy for I'm not sure how many times, but I know it hasn't happened or the Summit League regular season trophy for the first time in a long time, if it has happened before.
And here's what you're looking at, Summit League standings-wise. Yeah, Western Illinois at first with a 12-3 record, conference record. South Dakota State right behind them, second place, 12-4 conference record. South Dakota, who are they playing Saturday, has a 11-4 conference record, and IUPUI, the team that has beat the Leathernecks twice this season, is sitting in fourth place with the same record, 11-4. So this is a very, very close top 4 in the Summit League, and could be very dangerous. If they drop the game Saturday against South Dakota, they could easily fall to fourth place, just like that. And it's like that. And plus, they base off tiebreakers off of the overall record. In
Kyle,
which case,
could there be a 4-way tie for the Summit League championship? Because I know that they've already clinched a share of the Summit League, so I don't think they can drop to fourth.
I think there could easily be a 4-way tie. I'm not entirely sure of how this works.
I just know they've already clinched a tie for first place in the Summit League.
Right. And I think easily any of the top 4 teams can clinch a top spot.
The only team
if Western loses.
The only team that worries me once the tournament starts is IUPUI already beating Western twice. The rest of the teams Western, for the most part, has played well against, and this is the best season that I've ever heard of in program history. They probably have the best roster. They have a very, very bright future with the players that they have. And I think this year is going to be the year that they win the Summit League tournament. I'm going to just say it right now.
And the way they're playing this whole entire season, I don't doubt you. I agree with you. They could easily win this thing, easily. But it's a matter of can they play how they usually play in the regular season.
Yeah, they have all the components to win the tournament. They have good offense, they have good defense, and they always hustle. That's the difference between the men's and women's team this year, is that the women give 100% every game compared to Western, where sometimes they lack on defense, which means they weren't trying their best in the game.
And you mentioned that all those things, but one thing you did not mention was that if one person just doesn't do their contribution, I cannot speak.
Contribution.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome.
Thank you. But if one person just doesn't do the work or the job, then you got 4 other people to help them out. It's easy like that, and that's something between the men and women that they don't have.
Yeah, which is unfortunate for the men, because basically it's either Covington or McClusack, and if they don't play well, then the team doesn't play well.
And then the women's wise, you got Clemens, who's probably easily their top scorer. Then you got Morgan Bloomer, Higginbotham, and a slew of other players that can easily do the work. And like I said before, the game will be Saturday at 4:30 at Western Hall. It'll be a doubleheader. The men's also play Saturday against South Dakota. I do believe.
I do believe that is true. We wrote it down here. Yes, they. Oh wait, we did not write it down here.
Great. This is great. Preparation.
I got it.
That's okay. But yeah, we got a doubleheader Saturday, 4:30 women's game, 7 o'clock the men's game. And the women's game will be the biggest game of the season. Besides the South Dakota State game, that was also pretty huge. But this game will be massive.
They actually play IPFW tomorrow.
All right. Thank you very much. And now we will move it on to the new segment that we started last week called Max's March Madness.
Actually, before we do that, we're going to talk about WIU baseball. We will kick that over.
I almost forgot about that. I forgot their season started.
Yeah, we haven't done that in quite a while. So very quickly, WIU baseball, not really much to talk about in the way of anything good. But so they started their season off in a tournament. They played Texas Tech, or not a tournament, sorry. They had a doubleheader against, oh, excuse me, they did not. But they played 2 games against Texas Tech, the number 14 team and they lost the first one 15-1 and lost the second one 13-5. And I believe that at number 14 is the 14th in the country, right?
Yep, Texas Tech is number 14th ranked in the country, and
So they had a very hard start to the season.
oh yeah, and they're all in Mississippi too, Starksville, Mississippi.
And then they played Mississippi State on the 18th, and they played a doubleheader on the 18th. The first one was against Texas Tech. The second one was against Mississippi State. They lost that game 8-2. Then they played another game against Mississippi State on the 19th, and they lost that one 10-9.
I mean, these are tough opponents. They're not like Summit League or Ohio Valley, Missouri Valley, not those kind of teams. We're talking about SEC and Big 12 teams. So it's some pretty rough competition for the Leathernecks beginning to start out the season.
And going on to to WIU softball, they have now started the season with an overall record of 2-7, and I'm just going to say the last 5 games that occurred. They played Miami of Ohio on the 18th, losing 3-4. They played Belmont on the 18th as well, losing that game 4-5. Facing Western Kentucky on the 19th, losing that one 4-1, and facing Belmont on the 19th, losing that game 9-8. They did have a game today, however, this afternoon, where they put up a fight, I think. Excuse me.
Yeah, the last game against Belmont, was it Belmont that you said?
No. Well, the game against Belmont, it was a very close game. It was 9-8, which is good to see that the games aren't all blowouts.
Yeah, they actually hung in there really close for most of their games. They've hung in there really close.
And they did have a game today, and they played Houston Baptist and lost that game 9-10. So there's another close game that they lose. And they are playing Central Arkansas in 27 minutes in Conway, Arkansas.
So we'll try to give you an update on the score if we can towards the end of the show, what the score is. All right, now it is time for Max's March Madness. Take it away, Max.
All right. Last night, Wisconsin played against Ohio State, and it was quite the opposite of the week before where Ethan Happ dominated that game last week. This week, he did not play well. He only had 4 points. He had 2 rebounds. Nigel Hayes didn't play well. Nigel had 5 or 6 points, and then but the one player who played well was Bronson Koenig, and unfortunately for him, no one else played well. He had 27 points of the 73, which you never like to see if no one else is scoring well, because that means that the whole team's not playing well. But in Wisconsin's defense, they were playing good defense, but Ohio State was making every single shot they took. It was hand in the face, and they just couldn't miss. So really, even if Wisconsin had everyone playing well, I'm not sure if they would have won that game, because the atmosphere is very exciting in Ohio State. Now we're going to talk about Oregon. Oregon last night played against the University of California, and Dylan Brooks hit an awesome buzzer beater.
What a shot from Dylan Brooks. It was an unbelievable shot to witness.
Yeah, there was about 1 second left when he released it. He was being guarded by 2 players, just got it over defender Yvonne Rabb, who will probably most likely be a top 20 pick in this upcoming draft, and he drilled it. That's his second buzzer beater of the year. Earlier in the year, it came against UCLA in a really big game at Oregon. And this game was actually at California, so a big win for Oregon, as they are now number 2 in the conference.
And I think you can start calling Dylan Brooks Mr. Clutch.
That is very true. Now, and then my question is, so UCLA and Arizona play this Saturday. I want to know what your guys' prediction is for that game.
All right, UCLA is number 5, correct? And Arizona's number 4?
Yep.
And it'll be on ESPN, which is probably their prime time game of the night. I'm going to go with UCLA just because Lonzo Ball and TJ Leaf have been doing an outstanding job for that team this entire season. And I don't see Arizona, they lost 30 points to Oregon, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to go with UCLA just because they cannot really hang with the competition in the conference.
Yeah, I also think UCLA is going to win because they need this win. Arizona currently in the conference is 15-1, Oregon is 14-2, and UCLA is 12-3. So I think UCLA is going to come out with a vengeance because they lost to Arizona earlier in the season, and I know that's a game they want to get back, and they'll get another game up in the standings.
And I'm going to go with UCLA also. I'm on that Lonzo Ball
hype.
I'm buying into the hype. I trust his father. I'm not saying he's going to be the next Steph Curry, but I definitely think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with in the next decade.
He's a great talent. He'll be a quote this. He might be a future MVP. This is too early for me to say, but he might be an MVP if he plays what he does in college.
See, I agree with that because not only can he hit a shot from three, but he can hit it from NBA range already. He has made a plethora of shots from that range.
Well, that was a good word, Max.
Thank you.
Sorry, I really love good English.
Okay, and he makes those very consistently. He's shooting 45% from three this year, which, and the way he's been shooting and how deep he's been shooting, looks like it's going to translate in the NBA, even with his very awkward mechanics. I still think that he'll be a very good player. I know this is the most basic comparison, but I have to agree. I think he's going to be like a Jason Kidd type player.
I agree with you, too. Now, here's my question to you. Who will win the Pac-12?
Regular season or tournament?
The tournament.
I think, in my opinion, I think Oregon. Oregon has all the components. They have good shooters with Tyler Dorsey and Dylan Brooks. They have very good defender, and Jordan Bell, who's averaging over 2 blocks a game. I believe he's leading the NCAA in blocks. And so I think they have all the components because they're very good defensively. And Arizona's good, but I don't think they're good enough to win the tournament.
Yeah, if you look at Arizona, they're not really nothing really stands out besides
Lauri Markkanen.
Yeah, that's the only name that pops out. But other than that, they don't have a lot of good talent.
You know, you talk about that. One player pops up, but that means that with a record of 15-1 or in the conference and 26-3 overall, that means that they've got to have some phenomenal role players.
They're doing something right, that's for sure.
They've got to have other players that step up. What's he averaging so far this season?
Lauri?
Yeah.
He is averaging 15.6 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, and just 1 assist per game.
Wow. Okay, that was kind of like
underwhelming.
Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. But overall, I mean, that means that he's got to have a lot of role players that are stepping up. My prediction for the tournament, you know what? I don't really have a prediction because I'm looking at some of these streaks. Right now, Arizona's won 5 straight. Oregon's won 4 straight. UCLA has won 6 straight. It's up for grabs. They're all extremely hot teams right now. Obviously, Arizona versus Oregon is going to be... No, Arizona versus... Who are they facing?
UCLA.
UCLA. Arizona versus UCLA is going to end one of those streaks. But either way, all 3 of these teams are extremely capable of winning the tournament.
I mean, all these teams that face each other like twice, except for Oregon and Arizona. They only played once this entire season. Oregon just totally blew them out. But other than that, they've been splitting games, except for the game tomorrow. We'll see what happens there. But other than that, it's been fairly close.
And see, the thing about UCLA is they have by far the best offense in the nation, but they're not very good defensively, and that's why I don't think they're going to win the Pac-12 tournament. That's why I believe, because Oregon's good in every facet of the game, so that's why I believe they are going to win the Pac-12 tournament.
I think it will come down to Oregon and UCLA. That'll be your tournament matchup, tournament finals.
California is also a dark horse because, like I said earlier, they have Ivan Rabb, who is averaging close to 15 points and 9 boards a game. So I think if any team outside of those 3 don't win it, it will be California.
My final prediction for the Pac-12 is that I think UCLA will pull it off. They will probably win the Pac-12 just because TJ Leaf and Lonzo Ball are highly talented players, and they are just arguably the stars of the team. And including one person we did not mention in UCLA was Bryce Alford. Bryce Alford also does a fair contribution to the team. If they play an outstanding game against Oregon, I don't see why not they can win the Pac-12.
I agree. And last question of my segment is, if the Pac-12 tournament, who do you think will get a 1 seed? Okay, let me reword.
Will the winner
of the Pac-12 tournament get a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament?
They will easily get number 1 seed.
This in my opinion, easily the best conference in college basketball.
Okay. I think from top to bottom, you have to give it to the ACC.
Okay, one of the best conferences.
The top 3 in the Pac-12 are incredible.
And that will do it for Max's March Madness. And when we come back, we have a new segment we'd like to introduce, as well as 3-Minute Madness. And we got some trade deadline talk we need to talk about. Stay tuned. This is the Hot Seat.
Council.
And welcome back to the Hot Seat. It is Friday, and we're going to introduce a new segment called Buy or Sell. Simple as that. We're going to ask a few questions. Do you buy it or sell it? Which means, do you agree or disagree, or do you believe or not believe it? So I'm going to ask the guys questions and just simply say buy or sell and explain why. So first question is, Jay Cutler being available for trade/retiring. Do you buy or sell that?
I buy that because I think the Bears are finally done with his crap, because he's not been playing well. And I believe that was a nicer way of putting it. He hasn't played well other than in 2010 when they made the NFC Championship. What do you think, Connor?
I'm still buying this, but there was an article today on ESPN that apparently the Bears are somewhat reluctant to trade him.
Which I don't see why they are.
I believe it, because this is the Bears front office we're talking about. And I'm going to sell this because as much as I want Jay Cutler gone, as much as I want to believe all this story is happening, I don't believe it because we've heard this numerous times that the Bears are going to give Cutler. Like we said last season, they're going to cut him towards the end of the season, and that did not happen. So for now, I'm going to sell it, but I hope to believe it sometime in the future.
And I know not everything on Facebook is true, but I saw on 247sports.com that the Dolphins could be a front runner for Cutler.
Jets and Dolphins.
Jets and Dolphins is what I was about to say too. All right, next question is Pelicans. Are the Pelicans after the Boogie trade, which we'll talk about later in the later in the show, but are the Pelicans now considered a playoff threat in the West?
I'm selling that.
I was buying it at first, but after seeing what happened last night against Houston, I'm going to sell it 100%.
Explain why, Max. You're going to sell it.
They don't have the guard play. Drew Holiday, don't get me wrong, he's a very decent player, but everyone else, if you have to rely on Etuan Moore to be your two guard, your guards are not good. I'm sorry, but they just won't get far with those guards.
I'm saying sell it. Same reason. They have no backcourt. They have the best starting front court, arguably, in the league
By
right
far.
now. DeMarcus Cousins, Anthony Davis. When you look at that, here's just an example of what some people could see just by looking at this team. Right now, and I know this is a bad example because it's a video game, but 2K has them ranked as the 9th overall best team in the NBA on 2K right now. That's not accurate whatsoever. But looking at their starting lineup with those two players, their starting lineup is very overpowered. But the second one of them goes off, it's back to the old Pelicans.
And I agree with you. Right now, actually, the Pelicans are sitting at 11th place, right behind Portland and Sacramento and Denver, who holds the 8th spot. And as for that, are the Pelicans a playoff threat? No, they're not. Are they going to make the playoffs? Maybe. But you cannot build a team just around two centers. Boogie Cousins and Anthony Davis are remarkable talents. But one thing they're lacking is a backcourt. Drew Holiday is not going to cut it for your scoring.
But Kyle, E.T. phone home.
Etuan Moore, he's not going to cut it either.
I know.
I'm sorry.
I loved Etuan Moore when he was with the Bulls, but he was a backup for the Bulls.
And he was a good role player. He was never a good starter.
Yeah.
And plus, who do the Pelicans have on the bench? That's another question.
See, it's hard to even name one.
Exactly.
So not just Monty Eunice, but that's about it.
Exactly. And he's not really doing that good at all this season. So right now, I'm going to sell it as they're not even close to being a playoff threat. And speaking of which, are the Chicago Bulls considered a playoff threat after that trade?
Not at all, in my opinion.
I think they're going to make the playoffs.
Okay, I can agree with that, but they're
So
not a
they're the
threat
East.
to anyone.
It depends on how they're going to play. I think they can give the Cavs or the Celtics a run for their money in the first round. I don't think they'll beat them in the first round, but I think they could take it 6 or 7 games.
I'm going to sell it, too, because even if you asked me this question in the beginning of the season, I'm saying I'm going to sell it. I still believe in my 9th seed prediction. But in the East, it's kind of make that difficult.
And I don't like the most recent trade, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. We are go in depth about that. And in recent news, Magic Johnson was recently named the executive vice president of basketball operations, and he also hired general manager. See if I pull his name up real quick. His name is Rob Pelinka, the agent of Kobe Bryant, James Harden, and Andre Iguodala. So, do you buy or sell that Magic Johnson will fix the Lakers?
I'm going to buy. And I'm buying because it really helps having his name be at the top of the front office because that's going to attract free agents. And as reports I've seen lately, apparently Paul George really, really wants to play for the Lakers once he's a free agent. So I think having Magic Johnson talk to him will help.
I'm actually going to sell it. Here's why. Magic Johnson, he was a great NBA player. Easily top 3 Lakers of all time. He's a smart and great businessman. But when it comes to basketball business, he is not smart. Here's why. Barstool Sports, as soon as this news broke, Barstool Sports tweeted this out. Quoting Irvin Magic Johnson's tweets, "The Bucks just acquired the next Jason Kidd in Michael Carter Williams." We all know how that turned out. Another tweet by quoting Irvin Magic Johnson on his Twitter. "The Dallas Mavericks trade for Rajon Rondo puts them in a position to be a contender in the Western Conference." We all know how that ended. Irvin Magic Johnson's another tweet. "If Brandon Knight were to come out, I would take him number 1 in the draft."
Which draft was Brandon Knight a part of?
I believe he was the 2008 or I think 2009. It was the same thing as Kyrie.
Okay.
And the last tweet I'm going to say about Irvin Magic Johnson. For all of you out there questioning Jimmy Fredette at BYU, he is the real deal.
Well, to be fair, he did drop 73 the other day.
In China.
In China.
It's still 73 points.
In China.
So when it comes to that, he is not very smart when it comes to basketball. So now I'm going to sell it. I hope he does. I hope he does great things for the Lakers. They deserve it, but he's not really that smart.
But his name is going to attract big free agents, and that's why I think that he's going to fix it. I don't know how good he'll do drafting. That's the biggest question, as you just brought up. But I think bringing in free agents they'll be interested just because his name's Magic Johnson.
And I agree with you too. What about you, Connor?
Just judging by Barstool Sports, because I read that and I read it about 5 times just looking at it because I found it hilarious. I got to sell it. I don't think Magic Johnson's going to do anything for that organization. And that's not anything against Magic Johnson because obviously he's already done a lot for the organization as a player.
And not just the organization. He's helped many communities in the LA and nationwide.
Just LA teams in general. He's part owner of the Dodgers and the LA Sparks.
Yeah, he's arguably a great businessman, but when it comes to basketball, he's not really that intelligent.
We'll have to see how it all pans out.
All right, and this one's for mostly you, Connor, but this is for all of us to answer. The MLB recently initiated a new rule about intentional walks. Means that if you want to intentional walk a runner, all you do is throw one pitch, the manager sends a signal, and the guy will go to first base by yourself.
I may be wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm right. You don't have to throw a pitch. You just tell him to go to first. And this is the reason I don't have I have 2 sides as a player of, just college club baseball / little league, all the way up till then. And as a major league player, which I'm not, obviously. Major League Baseball, I understand throwing 4 pitches, and I liked that rule. But as a player, and I know Max, you played, Kyle, you played a little bit, up until a certain point, that's how you do it. That's how you take intentional walks in youth baseball, and you just tell them, go to first. I mean, it's something that most of these major leaguers had to deal with before they were a certain age. And it's nothing really that new. There are a lot of players that are complaining, saying it's making the game extremely, it's ruining the old school. And Manfred, the commissioner of baseball, he's in 10 years, there's quotes of people saying baseball's not going to be recognizable, which is a really scary thought. I mean, he just wants to quicken the game, and this is a way to quicken the game, but there are a lot of very fun things. For instance, Betances of the Yankees last year threw a wild pitch on an intentional walk, scoring a run, which is really fun. There's been a lot of instances. Another player last year, intentional walk, the ball was a little inside, he hit a double off the wall. Things like this happen, and that's part of the fun part about baseball. There are mistakes. They're professionals, but they make mistakes. This is just lazy, saying go to first. Come on, a minute of watching 4 pitches that one could be a mistake, it's all right. I mean, I'm not mad about the rule, but it happened. But it's not the best thing in the world.
See, I like it because it's one simple little way that the game can speed up, and I personally don't care if the intentional walk rule is there or not because I just love watching the game anyway. But for casual fans, to get more people to watch, I think this is going to help because it will speed up the game.
I'm going to disagree with this. I don't like this at all. I'm going to agree with you, Connor. It takes the fun out of this. It feels like the excitement. What if the pitcher messes up and throws a wild pitch in the 10th inning, and it'll be a wild pitch. It takes the excitement out, and I just don't agree with this rule. I know they're trying to make baseball more quicker, try and draw in more fans, but you got to focus on your true fans, not the casual fan.
Hey, I mean, I consider myself a true fan. I consider all of us true fans. I might go a little over the top. Today I was watching a spring training game, and it was in the later innings where no names are playing, and I enjoyed it. But overall, I mean, I'm a fan that's going to watch everything. I go to sleep watching MLB Tonight, watching every game in the majors during that night. And for me, the game can be 5 hours. I'll still watch the whole thing. But I do understand they're trying to bring people in. For example, fans that are, they don't really care. They may be just watching it for their kid or, with their family. I know my mother's like that. She doesn't really care, but she will watch it every once in a while. But she would love it if the game was 20 minutes. But those are fans that just are interested in the last 2 innings of a baseball game. Same thing with basketball. Oh, I tune in for the last 2 minutes of a basketball game because that's all that matters. But I don't agree with it, but I understand why he's doing it.
And I agree with you too. And the final question is, as you all know, I'm going to send out a friendly reminder. The Cubs did win the World Series. But do you believe in the World Series hangover?
No, I'm going to sell that.
I'm going to buy it, and I'm just doing this. And I'm actually fighting my biased opinion of the Cubs going 162-0, you know. That's a biased opinion, but you get my point on that.
Kind
I
of
like how the Bears were going to go 16-0.
I said 13-3. But and then, of course, at the end, my prediction was 100% right for all you Sports Bite listeners from last semester. Anyway, the truth is that there's a hangover. The Cubs are riding high off of a World Series win that was the best victory, arguably, in history. A Game 7 that was absolutely unbelievable. They broke a 108-year curse, but they've had a 2-month shorter off season, or a month shorter off season than most other teams. I understand that off season is extremely important. That you want a longer break unless you are in the World Series, obviously, and you can't do anything. But there is a World Series hangover. You're ahead of yourself, and that's when you come back down to earth. Once you start off a little slow, I don't think the Cubs are going to start off slow, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them through the first 40 games being 25-15.
And I will buy it as well. I buy the World Series hangover. The Cubs are not going to do what they did last season. Last season, it was an outstanding season. They will not do 105 wins, or how many wins they
103.
103 wins. They'll probably get 94, 92. So I'm going to buy the World Series hangover just because that you're going to get friendly reminders that you just won the World Series with the banner raising and the ring ceremony, and that'll stick with you throughout the entire season.
I hope I'm wrong, but I could see a semi-slow start for the Cubs this season.
But I'm going to sell it just because I think Joe Madden will keep them on their feet, and this is what spring training's for. This is where you start to clear out the rust, start to get ready for the regular season. I'm not selling, and I'm not buying the hangover.
Oh, my Lord. Yeah, you are 100% right, Rust. Watching that spring training game really quickly, former Cub Chris Coughlin going down the right field line. It was Phillies-Yankees, dropped a fly ball, and the Yankees ended up scoring.
And that is why you have spring training.
Spring training is extremely important. That's why it's not 1 game, 2 games, 3 games, 4 games. It's 30 games or so.
All right, and that was buy or sell, that new segment we're about to throw in probably every week. And now it's time for another segment that we've done for the last couple of weeks, and that is 3-Minute Madness. Basically, we just get like a 1-minute question. We could take 3 minutes, 1-minute question, and this time it's gonna be about one topic. And I'm gonna read this topic real quick. Michael Reinsdorf has now been given full control of the team from his father, Jerry Reinsdorf, obviously, according to the Sun-Times. However, the Sun-Times' Joe Cowley has been reporting that he will prevent a rebuild from happening to save the profitability of the team. He also will keep the popular Gar Forman and John Paxson in the front office position. So the question, and we don't know what the extent, this could be fake, this could be true, we don't know the extent of this source is. But if for this to be true, are the Bulls essentially doomed?
Essentially, they are definitely, you know what? This is a really annoying question because, right when you think it can't get any worse, the Bulls are not doomed, but they're in trouble because, as you said, Jerry Reinsdorf said that he's like, family to Garpax, and he won't ever fire them, basically, unless it's extreme circumstances. I think the Bulls are definitely in a heap of trouble, and it's just not something that you're gonna. It's so hard to talk about. I'm sorry. It's just so annoying what the Bulls have been doing. But right when you thought it couldn't get any worse, it's just getting worse. And now Jerry Reinsdorf is saying that he has a belief in Garpax. And John Paxton actually just said that the Bulls had a plan in place. He also said Fred Hoiberg's job is safe because he's evolving into a better coach. That was a quote from yesterday. So it's getting extremely difficult for the Bulls to really keep up the pace.
All right. I really wish the Bulls would fire Garpax because just when I thought they couldn't make any more dumb decisions by not trading Jimmy Butler, they did by trading for Anthony Morrow, Cameron Payne, and Joffrey. I can't even pronounce his last name. So
Laverne.
Something like that. Some foreign guy, but some guy from Europe. And they also traded away a second-round pick, including Doug McDermott and Taj Gibson, which if you're gonna trade Doug McDermott and Taj Gibson, you have to get a draft pick out of that. But instead, they traded away a second round draft pick, which in this upcoming draft, I think could be potentially better than any of the players they got in the trade. And I still wish they would have traded Jimmy Butler. I actually sat next to the Boston Celtics assistant coach at a regional game on Tuesday.
So did we.
So did Connor Collin. I wish I would have known, because I would have told him to trade for Jimmy Butler, but they didn't.
All right, Michael Reinsdorf, what are you doing? What are you doing? You don't do that. You don't put personal matters in front of business matters. I understand that you want to make a profit out of the Bulls by attracting free agents, big stars like Paul George or some mid-card talent, just like I can't think of one right now, but you cannot do that. You got to think about championships first, and if they do that, they're just throwing all the championship opportunities out of the window. They don't have no clue what he's doing. If you don't know what you're doing, just sell the team. Listen to your fans. You're not listening to your fans at all. You're just saying what money talks. That's what you're saying is money talks. We don't care about your championships. Michael Jordan, that was in the past. We need to make a profit out of this organization. And what are you doing, though? And if you're going to not fire Garpax, then just tell us you're not going to fire Garpax. Just at least give us that for sure hope that, all right, it's never going to happen. They're never going to be fired. And that is, I just don't agree with that. All right, and that was 3 Minute Madness. And when we come back, we have NBA trade deadline talk to talk about. So stay tuned. This is the Hot Seat.
Now there are reports that the Pelicans might have talks with the Kings about a DeMarcus Cousins trade.
He's a great player, dominant in this league. Of course, with all the numbers he put up, but I haven't heard anything.
Most likely we will get less, because I had a better deal 2 days ago.
Than what you got now?
Yep.
And then
you had a better offer for Cousins 2 days ago?
Talk to those agents.
And what you just heard was the Kings GM talk about the Vlade Divac Kings GM talking about the Boogie trade and how he had a better offer a couple days ago. And that's just one of the major headlines that happened during the trade deadline. The deadline ended yesterday at 2 p.m. So we're going to talk about all the big moves that happened, who won, who lost in those situations. Kind of take it away.
So basically, DeMarcus Cousins was traded. We already mentioned that earlier, but the trade included Cousins and Omri Caspi, who actually broke his finger yesterday.
I believe so.
It was his finger, so he's already out for about 4 to 6 weeks. But Tanola and Sacramento in exchange got Buddy Hield, Tyreek Evans, Langston Galloway, and the 2017 first and second round picks from the Pelicans. So winners and losers, guys. What does this mean for both franchises? For me, it means that Sacramento's smart and New Orleans is not smart whatsoever.
They're not at all.
No. They got rid of their backcourt. They got rid of Buddy Hield, who's a rising NBA star. They to get a guy that is a star, but they didn't really need him. It's in the worst situation. And also, this is a trial run, because I believe DeMarcus is a free agent after this season.
I believe so, yeah.
And this is a trial run to see if he works with the Pelicans, and I think it's going to be a disaster.
See, I think us three are like the only people in North America that agree that New Orleans lost this trade, because they sent, like you said, they sent away their future, and Buddy Hield also sent away 2 draft picks, which in this draft class is loaded. So, and DeMarcus Cousins is also a free agent after this season. So, and I'm not sure if he's going to re-sign with New Orleans or not. So they better hope that him and Davis work well together, or else they won't be together next year.
And they're also on pace for getting a lottery pick. If they stayed in 11th place, which they are right now, they would have had a lottery pick for sure. And they just gave it away to the Kings.
So maybe Cousins and Davis are thinking that they're going to run the show, but maybe they want to tank so they can get a good point guard to facilitate the ball to them.
All right, so who wins and who loses in this trade deal?
I already said what I thought.
I think Kings.
Why?
Because they're going to get a first-round draft pick and a second-round draft pick in this class, could be potentially very good. And they got very good future in Buddy Hield.
Hey, Buddy Hield was my favorite college basketball player last year. I loved watching Oklahoma. I loved him in the tournament. And
Until Villanova happened.
You know what? We don't need to talk about things like that, Max. And again, the winner of this trade is easily Sacramento. They got it doesn't seem like it's stacked, but it's an under-the-radar stacked group of players. Under the radar. Tyreek Evans is not what he used to be, because he was a very good,
he's a good role player.
Not a top-tier player. He was a very good role player, and it's unfortunate that he's going.
And I think this is Willie Cauley-Stein's time to shine, as he showed out last night. He had 29 points. That was a career high the very first game without DeMarcus Cousins. So I think that's a good sign for Sacramento.
All right, in my case, it's kind of hard to pick a winner or loser in this trade. There was no clear winner in this trade. If I were to pick, I would say New Orleans won this trade. As of right now, in the present, New Orleans wins this trade. However, in the future, the Kings win this easily because they get a good first-round pick in this upcoming draft, and they get a rising star in Buddy Hield.
One very important thing we didn't mention is Tyreke Evans made his career in Sacramento. He was drafted by the Kings, and Tyreke Evans, who knows, just like Kyle Korver going to the Cavaliers, maybe somewhat of a rejuvenation of his career.
You better hope so. But as of now, and plus, I would have declared the Pelicans a winner this trade if they traded for a point guard. Because that's what they lack. I mentioned this in the beginning of the show. They lack a backcourt. Drew Holiday is not going to cut it for the Pelicans, and they're just not going to cut it at all in this entire season. If they're trying to go for a playoff push, they just lost it.
Yeah, I think they should have tried to include Darren Collison in the trade.
Or done a three-way trade with different teams, like the Chicago Bulls.
Or the Suns for Brandon Knight. That would have been a perfect trade for them, in my opinion.
We wish the Bulls were involved.
Yeah, we always wish the Bulls were in good trade talks.
Yeah, but, Garpax.
And the next thing on the agenda is Lou Williams, who was traded to the Rockets with Corey Brewer and a first-round pick heading to the Lakers. And Lou Williams dropped 27 points last night.
And I think that was a very, very good pickup for the Rockets. Their backcourt on the bench is Eric Gordon and Lou Williams, two of the top two bench player scorers in the NBA.
And they beat the Pelicans.
That says something about that Buggy trade.
Because of the backcourt that the Rockets have.
And I think we can just go on. You want to say one more thing?
Does the Lou Williams trade make the Rockets a contender in the West?
I believe so, honestly. They have the firepower to contend with anyone.
I think they already were a contender in the West.
But enough of a contender to win the West, beat the Warriors, and beat the Spurs.
I think so because the Rockets actually beat the Warriors in overtime earlier in the season without Lou Williams.
So now they have James Harden, who is arguably the first or second best scorer in the league right now, and
the best facilitator,
and a contender for the MVP.
Yeah, and now they have Lou Williams, who's coming off the bench, scoring 27 points off the bench, which not many people do, and that's just a really good sign for the Rockets, meaning Harden doesn't have to be on the court to have scoring possibilities.
He is an outstanding sixth man. We can all agree with that. Lou Williams, he's probably the best sixth man in the league. He could be a starter, but his role in the sixth man is just perfect.
And if I remember correctly, I think he had the most points per game on the Lakers when he was on that team.
He did. He led that Lakers team, but I think that's the reason why the Lakers wanted to get rid of him, because they wanted to tank. And Lou Williams was just doing the opposite.
And another trade that happened is Taj Gibson, the longtime Bull, and Doug McDermott are now heading to OKC along with a second-round pick for the following players: Cameron Payne, Anthony Morrow, and Joffrey Lavergne.
The Thunder easily won that trade. The Bulls got fleeced on that one.
Well, let's look at some of these stats. Right now, for Anthony Morrow, he is averaging this season.
Yeah, I'll sum it up for you. They're all averaging 5 points.
Yeah, I was going to say.
All of them are averaging 5 points.
Anthony Morrow is averaging 5 points. He's shooting only 29% from 3. Cameron Payne is averaging a total of, I believe, around 5 points as well. He is averaging, here is his stats. He is averaging 5.3 points per game, 2 assists, 1 rebound. And Jeffrey Lavergne is averaging 14 minutes. He's shooting 45%. But only averaging 5.7 points per game. So there's 15 points added to the game while losing possibly sometimes 20 points a night from Doug and 20 points from Taj.
How old is Anthony Morrow? Can you check that real quick?
He's been playing for a long time. He started off with Golden State.
All right, so take away that Anthony Morrow trade. You got 2 young players, young developing players. You got Cameron Payne that just came out of the 2015 draft. So he's relatively young.
Morrow is 31 years old.
And then you got Lavergne, who is still a pretty young player. Probably got him couple years ago. The OKC Thunder did. So these are still developing players. They could turn out to be studs in the future. But right now, the OKC really won this trade.
And other than Jimmy Butler, who have the Bulls developed into a really good player?
They got rid of him.
Exactly.
They got rid of him. You know, the Bulls have always had some players that I thought were promising. You know, DJ Augustine when he was on the Bulls, Nate Robinson, even Aaron Brooks, who could shoot.
And that's what the Bulls are lacking this
year.
They
always get rid of their backup point guard every year. C.J. Watson in 2010, 2011.
He could have been the best of them all, honestly.
Yeah, he could have been. And let's look at this. Seemingly, this made Doug McDermott pointless.
The trade for Doug McDermott.
Yes,
in the draft.
In the draft, pointless because they lost 2 first-round picks,
and that turned out to be Gary Harris and Nurkic,
who are good, are decent players. They're pretty good players, and so this was not a smart trade. I think we can all just say that right now.
Yeah, they lost 2 first-round picks that year, and also 2 second-round picks that year.
But I am very excited to see how McDermott does with Westbrook, because Westbrook's going to drive the whole time. That's going to leave a 3-point open for McDermott.
Westbrook can add to his assists now because he has people to actually pass it to now. Because Doug McDermott, he's an outstanding 3-point shooter. Didn't show for the Bulls, but he's great. Taj Gibson, he's getting old, but he's playing his best.
He's got a good mid-range game, and he's very athletic.
He finally built that mid-range game, and that's why I think that OKC really got a good deal.
Yeah, and I think this could be a dark horse for maybe the best trade at the deadline by the time we get to the end of the season.
And was it a smart trade for the Bulls wise?
Nope.
But do you understand why they did it?
I really don't.
I think they probably did this trade just to get young talent. Take away Morrow. They were trying to get young talent just to try to rebuild. I hope to rebuild.
I don't know if you can call it talent, but they definitely got young players.
They're talented if they're in the NBA. Let's just put it that. You can't argue that.
I guess.
And another trade that did occur this weekend was the trade of P.J. Tucker from the Suns for Jared Sullinger and 2 future second-round picks. What are the Raptors trying to gain? They got P.J. Tucker, who only averages 7 points a game.
They're looking, but they don't have any defenders other than DeMar Carroll, and P.J. Tucker brings that toughness to the Raptors, and I actually like that trade.
Remember when the Raptors were in second place in the East, right behind the Cavaliers?
What are they, 4th?
They're 4th right now.
They don't have any
They continue
defense.
falling. They continue falling.
They don't have any defense outside of DeMar Carroll, so I think that's why primarily they went after P.J. Tucker.
And P.J. Tucker is a good player.
He's a tough player.
Yeah.
Hard-nosed, always dives for loose balls, and that's someone that the Raptors need.
And in my opinion, I think the Raptors really did a good job of doing this trade because you get P.J. Tucker, you lose Jared Sullinger, but that's okay. And then you lose 2 future second-round picks, in which case, not really good players come out of the second round of the NBA draft.
And the Suns are doing great. They're starting to rebuild, which is what they really need.
I think I've been rebuilding for probably, 5, 6 years now.
I'm trying to sugarcoat it a little bit. But it's just the way it is. And so, guys, winners and losers from the draft.
The winners, I'm going to start with the loser. The biggest loser is not the New Orleans Pelicans, even though they could have got it backcourt. The real loser is the Boston Celtics. They could have easily made a move for either Paul George, Jimmy Butler, or Carmelo Anthony to jump over the Cavaliers at first place, potentially to take the East. They really lost that trade. They have good assets like the 2 Nets picks.
And they weren't willing to trade it to the Bulls. The Bulls offered, I believe the Bulls did. No, they did not?
The 2 picks were actually on the table, and the Bulls declined.
Oh, well.
What's your source on that?
My source was...
Here, you look at that one, continue on. So, yeah, Boston, they really fell flat on their face in this trade deadline. But the winner is the Rockets. They got Lou Williams, who is a great 6-man, a great shooter, and you just add to that offensive machine in Houston that could easily destroy the Warriors in the West.
I'm actually going to go with the winner was the OKC Thunder. They got Taj Gibson and Doug McDermott. Doug McDermott, I think he needed a new setting to start over his NBA career. And Taj Gibson is a very, very solid big man that Russell Westbrook can feed to.
All right, I want your unbiased opinion because I know how you love Doug McDermott. Do you think Doug McDermott will actually do good in OKC?
I do, because when Doug McDermott's out there with Russell Westbrook's going to draw all that attention, and he's going to be able to pass out to Doug McDermott, who's going to be wide open when he's on the floor. Because when one of the biggest things that Russell Westbrook does, he can drive and then kick out, which is great for shooters. Trust me. I think me and Max both know this. When your point guard drives, it makes your life a whole lot easier.
Oh, yeah, especially for a shooter like McDermott.
And so who's losing the trade deadline?
The loser, and I'm not going to say the Bulls because honestly I'm leaving them out because I'm not trying to be biased. The loser in this trade deadline, I'm going to go with Boston as well because they had 3 great players that they could have done something to get, and they would have gone over the Cleveland Cavaliers. In my unbiased opinion, they would have gone over the Cleveland Cavaliers.
But do you think they could still beat the Cavaliers?
Yes.
Why?
I think that they can beat the Cavaliers if they play as a team, and I think Isaiah Thomas has to be at the top of his game. I think it is possible. I don't think it will happen, but I think they could beat the Cavaliers.
I think they have a 50-50 chance of beating the Cavaliers.
Yeah, basically.
It's not for sure because playoff LeBron is a dangerous animal, and you don't want to mess with him. But they're starting to deplete a little bit. They're showing signs of weakness in Cleveland, and Boston can really take good advantage as not just Boston, Washington can take advantage. Toronto can take advantage. It's basically a 4-team race for the East. So I can easily say it's a 50% chance that Boston will defeat Cleveland, but they have to get to them first. And it's going to be a tough series if they do meet in the conference finals.
And I want to add one more thing. Via Keith Smith NBA on Twitter, he's a verified. He was told that the Hawks offered 3 to 4 first-round picks plus swap options for either Paul George and Jimmy Butler.
Wow.
So
I didn't hear that.
That is via Keith Smith NBA. He's a contributor to the Real GM, which is a website for NBA, and FanRag Sports, Celtics blog, and 16 Wins a Ring.
So basically, the Bulls could have got 4 first-round picks.
Yep.
All right. Well, Garpax, hello. And going on, guys. All right. Now, past the trade deadline, what do you expect from the second half of the season? And I'll start with this. I think Russell Westbrook will finish the year with the most triple-doubles in a single season ever. I think he will get that completed. I think that the Bulls are not tanking, which I think we should just talk about that because it's our next bullet point here. I think the Bulls are not tanking. I think they should, but they are not going to. They're going to keep playing because they did keep Jimmy Butler. They still have Dwayne Wade, and I don't think those two players are going to be willing to tank, especially with Dwayne Wade near the end of his career. He doesn't want to go out a loser.
And it doesn't make sense to tank at this point.
The trade deadline's gone. Wait till the offseason. And the Sixers, that was just the next bullet point. And I think that the Western Conference Finals are going to be the Rockets and the Warriors, and I think the Eastern Conference Finals are going to be, you know what, I'm going to go on a dark horse here. I think the Washington Wizards versus the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I think Boston will overlap the Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference standings. They will do that by the end of the season. And the Washington Wizards, they'll be right behind them. I think Cleveland will have a huge slump towards the end of the season. That'll put them at third place. And that's my prediction for the second offseason. Other than that, everything will stay relatively normal. Houston is going to be good. They might move up to second, but who knows?
Okay, since has Darren Williams been waived by the Mavericks yet?
Officially, yes.
Okay, if he signs with the Cavaliers, do you think the Cavaliers still go in that slump?
It depends if the Cavaliers do sign him, because he might go to Utah, he might go anywhere else.
It also depends if Darren Williams becomes D. Will again.
The Illinois D. Williams.
Well, but he would be a very good backup point guard.
Oh, he will.
In my opinion.
He still has a lot of talent.
I mean, right now it's Felder, and that's not really working out. And next thing, Sixers. Okay, this is not something we really need to talk about. We don't know much about it. The Ben Simmons of the Sixers, Joel Embiid 2.0, is out for the season after they thought he was going to be returning sometime around now. And one big thing that happened while all of us were sleeping last night, Shaq and JaVale McGee got into
their history.
Shaq and the Fool. Shaq made. I didn't think it was that wrong. He's just messing with him. And JaVale McGee took it very harshly. Shaq said, now that you're on a good team, well, he wasn't messing. He had a point. Now that you're on a good team, start acting like, start playing seriously to JaVale McGee, who has been having a decent year for the Warriors. And JaVale McGee took that extremely personally, and he said something along the lines of, Shaq, you've been talking with those peanuts in your mouth for the last 5 years. And he was a peanut emoji. And
we all know what that means.
Yeah.
And Shaq posted a picture of JaVale McGee's face Photoshop and what looks like a homeless man saying, my name is JaVale McGee and I'm really a bum.
And so that is how I think, Kyle, we're going to leave our listeners.
How about this? One word.
How about that?
How about one word to describe the Bulls throughout the entire season? Just the state of the Bulls, like we did last week. Just
dysfunctional.
One word. Clueless.
Mine's a sound. And
we'll leave it there. Thank you guys for listening to The Hot Seat. If you haven't done already, follow us on Twitter at WIU Hot Seat. We now have a YouTube channel at Dorm Room Sports. We'll do some more stuff.
And then add us on Facebook as well.
Yep, and Dorm Room Sports will upload some podcasts, some shows, and obviously the radio shows. So thank you guys for listening. Be back next Friday once again, and thank you for listening. Have a great day, Macomb. Have a safe weekend.